Alright, now it's daytime. Here it is. It's a little rough. I had to go dump the oil bucket, and oh, it's relatively dry. But I had to go dump the oil bucket and ended up spilling a little bit in the bed, so we had to go spray it off. But it's a pretty decent little truck, man. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the oil today. And the 5.2 Magnums and the 5.9 Magnums both use this filter. Same thing with the 3.9, and then we're gonna add a gallon or a quart of that. So that's where it is. Back in a minute. All right. So this is the filter that came off of it. It's the filter we're going back on with. It's a little bit different. Excuse me, a little bit bigger. I'm not exactly sure how that what that actually equates to. So, just in case you haven't never seen anybody do this before, what I like to do is take some of this old oil and put it on these O-rings right in here, get it all the way around, just a little bit. That way, when you go back in and tighten it up, you tighten it up, and then when you need it to bust loose, that O-ring isn't dry rotted to the block or whatever goes on. It's not so tight that you have to have a wrench or whatever. This one fortunately came off just a little bit of a turn, but so we got our O-ring on there, or excuse me, oiled. We're gonna So we're underneath the passenger side right now. We're gonna take this and there's clearance right here. It doesn't touch. I can fit 2 fingers in there. Actually, let me show you. So, good way, and I do this with spark plugs too, good way to tell if it's gonna grab properly is to work it backwards, and then you can feel the drop. There it is. Hear that click. Now you can go forward with it. Spins on nice and smooth, no issues. It means the threads are good. And then, so I'm not gonna force it, but tight is tight. There it is. Now I can go tighter on this, but I don't feel like there is an absolute reason to be any tighter than this. It's snug. From what I've heard from other people, I'm not 100% sure if it's true or what vehicle it was on, but I heard that oil filters tighten up as you go. I'm not, again, not 100% sure. So, there's that. So now, I should have grabbed this, before I crawled up underneath there, but do a little bit of house cleaning, or housekeeping, I should say. Clean this, clean that up, and all up in there nice and good. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be shiny, but that's where that is. Oh, my oil plug ended up being a 16 millimeter, and it's tight, but not too tight. The O-ring, this is, I'm guessing like a sealer ring or whatever. I haven't ran into that before, so I'm not 100% sure this is a factory plug. So, this ring squished down, and I just gave it a little bit more after that. Should be good to go. And then we're gonna fill it up. Alright, so we're back up top. I've got dipstick hanging out just a wee bit. Now, when we go to put the Lucas in here, I can already tell that this bottle is going to have some issues sitting straight. So, what I'm going to do, we're going to pull this off, get it up out of the way, and then see if this will shove back somewhere. I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to doing this shit. There we go. Well, maybe not. Yeah, either way, it'll be alright. So, I like to put the Lucas in before the oil, just to give it a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe a wash down. Yeah, all over the place. And yet, another reason to keep your shop rags on hand. That way, you don't smell funny. But, another thing you can do with the Lucas to make sure that it flows better is I like to, on the heavyweight stuff, my grandfather wasn't a very synthetic person. He liked that old school heavy gear oil Lucas type. So what you can do is you go in there, get a big bowl of water, and basically submerge the bottle in hot as you can get water to thin out the oil. That way it'll flow faster or better, or hit the oil pan quicker, or whatever you want to call it. But I haven't done anything to this because it's full synthetic. It flows pretty well, or drains, whatever. So I can usually sit this in here. We'll give it about 5 minutes to drain out, you know, let all the excess shit run down into the motor, and then after that we'll pour the oil in it. Alright, so we did our mandatory 5-minute cigarette smoke. What I wanted to show y'all was, again, I don't know who knows what, so I should have wiped off around before I pulled the cap off. You don't want this kind of crap coming in or getting into your engine, period. It's gonna happen. A little bit of stuff's gonna get in there, but what I have found to work is, since I already wiped this part right here whenever I spilt, I'm gonna start right here. I've got my finger around that ledge. I'm gonna come in here just like this and pull back. Find a new spot on the rag, come back in here and pull back. Find a new spot on the rag, come around and pull back. And that is not gonna guarantee nothing will get in there, but it'll let a lot less in there. Plus, you take this bastard, you go flick it, you come back in here, alright, you can see it's getting a little bit better. Almost done. I'm gonna give it one more swipe, get that little bit right there. Alright, now this area right here is pretty much dirt free. Go around the outside, clean up the little tidbits. Just try not to get those big chunks in there. And that little bit of dirt, when you bust it loose, it's gonna come loose. You want it to go anywhere but in this hole. So you can take the cap back on, and see, we're not gonna get very much accessibility to get all of that out. So again, we'll work our way from the hole. Okay. The stuff's caked in there pretty hard. I'm just using my fingernail and digging on the cake stuff. But that's what I'm gonna do for the next few minutes. Be back here in a minute. Alright, so I got a little bit more clean. I'm not gonna start getting too anal retentive about it. I left some of the harder caked on stuff in there, and cool. I did clean the threads, sorta. The back of the cap's a little dirty, which is fine. Again, as minimal amount of dirt that you can get in there, the better. Now, on these funnels, I got a ginormous one for the transmission fluid on that other truck. Anyways, so when you get done pouring oil in here, down at the bottom of that, you're not going to be able to get a rag into. So what you can do is you can get some carb cleaner, spray it in there, try and get all the dirt out and all the oil off of the choke point, pretty much from here down. Or I guess you can get one of those long bottle brushes down in there, maybe, whatever. But I'll fill this up. So I've already got 1 quart of Lucas in there. I think this is a 4-quart motor. I'm not 100% sure, so we're gonna go off of the back of this. I'll go from 4, or I'll fill to, well, actually, so we already got 1 quart, so I'll go down to 2 quarts, and then I'll check the oil. Actually, I'll fill it up. I'll put it down to the 2 quart mark. I'll back it off the ramps. Let it sit for 5 minutes, and then we'll double check our oil and possibly top it off from there. Alright, so I needed to add something before I start pouring this in. These little seals here that come on the top, pull all that major crap off of there, because if that gets down in there, it'll clog an oil galley or something. So don't just rip half of the tab off and then start pouring, because if you can't see where the tab is, it's gonna start flowing out of one side or flowing out of the other, and you'll make a mess. Even if you got a big old funnel like this, I mean, shit happens sometimes. So definitely clean or get most of this little white paper crap off of here. That way it doesn't go down into your motor, engine, motor, whatever. Alright. As I literally had just stated, shit happens. I got a little rambunctious and I tried to pour faster than I needed to. Just ease your way into turning the damn bottle and watch where it's going. Don't just try to lay the bottle over and spill it everywhere, because now I got to come back and clean this up. I mean, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't hurt the seal to have a little bit of lubricant on it. But anyways, just take your time. It doesn't have to be done right now. If it does need to be done right now, just be very precise and plan to clean stuff up. Or, excuse me, try to be as precise as you can and be ready to clean stuff up. So, I've already taken the top off of that. This is off of the jug. throw all my crap in here. And you can, if you would like, you can cut around the outside of these filters right here or a little after, and pull the filter apart to see if you got any big chunks of metal sitting in there. And if you do, you probably got something that, you know, eating itself or not very happy with its situation. So I've got my foot propped up here so the funnel doesn't start walking around, because there's a tendency when you start filling this up, it gets top heavy and they like to fall or do whatever they want. So I got my foot propped up here and I filled it up, and I had the oil come clear up to here, and it didn't fall over. But again, you still want to have a solid platform, or, you know, a way to hold the funnel so it doesn't fall over and you're not wasting a bunch of oil, and you're not, you know, gonna have a smoky smell coming off the exhaust manifolds, because, you know, that's yeah, gravity straight down. Anyways, oh yeah, so yeah, about 2-ish, a little under, something like that, just around about. Yeah, I'm gonna back it off the ramps, and then we'll check the oil, see where it's at, and I'll be back. Alright, it's been sitting for about 5 minutes. There's oil all over this dipstick, so I can't do this one-handed. I don't have a prop for my phone, so excuse me, I can do this one-handed. It's just bear with me. So we're gonna wipe this. Don't even bother with checking it, just wipe it. Now, do not force your dipstick. Never force your dipstick, because then you're going to be out of oil. It's not going to touch the oil anymore. Alright, so let's see. Man, that's almost right on point. Let's see if I can get this to focus. Yeah, alright. So we're just, man, I can't get it to focus. Anyways, so it's probably a quarter of a quart or less under the full line. It's in the safe zone, but you want to get it as close as you can. So now that we're off the ramps and we're sort of on flat ground, it's going to give us a decent reading. If you're on ramps and you got a smaller car than this truck is, we got pretty good clearance. Don't leave your oil pan underneath there. The front bumper will drag that pan and make a ginormous mess. What else? Oh, we gotta check for oil leaks. So just in case we missed something or didn't tighten something down, double check everything that you just did. So remember that we cleaned off the, oh, there's no light in here now. Anyways, right up underneath the filter, we wipe this down. There's no oil. And then there's no oil up here. And our oil plug isn't leaking. So that means we did a good job of tightening that up for now. Now, here in a couple days. Might crawl up underneath it, give it a good double check. So there we go. I'm gonna try and top it off, and I'll get back to you in a minute. All right, so I probably should mention that Lucas, even though this is a little bit runnier than the regular gear oil, or excuse me, more viscous, less viscous, whatever, it flows better than the original Lucas. It's gonna stay in the top end over, you know, like the valves, not the valves, the rocker arms, the cam, the lifters, all of that. Basically Lucas stays where it's it stays where it's at, if that makes any kind of sense at all. So it's gonna stay up top. So I did put a little bit more oil in it, but to be on the safe side, so I don't overfill it and end up having to play a guessing game of how long to pull the drain plug for, I'm gonna wait till in the morning to check it again to see if it needs to be topped off. Like I said, I just put probably just over a quart in it, or excuse me, just over a quarter of a quart in it. So that being said, in the morning it'll probably be overfull, but depending on how much overfull it is, we'll see. But just keep that in mind if you use Lucas. Now if you're just using this, well, if you're just using oil, once you fire it up, you got to make sure that you have oil pressure. I tell you what, I'll be right back. Alright, so out of gear, you're going to want to make sure that this oil gauge comes up just like that. You see how it stopped about right in there, and then it came up. I guess it's just grabbing more oil, but you definitely want to make sure that your oil gauge comes up and you don't have like a oil light or what have you. This check engine light is a misfire, nothing to do with what we just did, well, that I know of. And it's pretty rough. Anyways, so yeah, make sure that you have oil pressure, no check engine light, or no low oil light. If you do, you need to stop, turn the motor off, engine, I'm sorry, I need to train myself not to call it a motor, engine, turn the engine off, and then like we did before, we're going to come down here, we're going to check the oil filter and then the drain plug. Now, oh, okay, so I have known this truck's got 177,000 miles on it, which is, to me, one of the, this is the lowest mileage engine, or excuse me, vehicle that I have owned of one of these. I've had a 97, a 98, this is a 98, 85, man, I've had all kinds of these trucks. So usually what I would do is if it, like, okay, for instance, my 97 had about 265,000 miles on it. I changed the oil with 530, and I had valve cover leaks. Really good. Like, I would have to put a quart in, I don't know, every week, which is a pretty decent leak considering that both gaskets for the valve covers are like, I don't know, maybe $15. So what I ended up doing, instead of just changing the valve cover gaskets, you know, me being ignorant and not knowing much, I put 10W30 in it. That's what my grandparents run in their diesel trucks. It's just a little bit heavier oil, and once it starts coagulating, I'm calling it coagulating, but once it starts building up, it actually, oil just builds up and starts kind of taking care of itself to a certain point, unless it's a huge leak. But it's definitely good to get that stuff taken care of. So if you got valve cover leaks like we do here, part of it's probably that rubber grommet back there. I think it's the crankcase breather, and then the PCV on the other side. Those are pretty common spots for these trucks, as far as I know. Valve covers, yeah, valve covers. Yeah, you can pretty much deduce where it's coming from. Like, I wouldn't call this area in here that rubber grommet from the PCV. I wouldn't call it that. That one doesn't look like it's leaking as bad as the the breather, but this to me looks like a valve cover gasket is blown out, or not blown out, but it does leak. Another thing, I should have brought my oh wait, I have my flashlight. All right, let's see if we can see some stuff. All right. Yep. So, just from a quick assessment, I don't think that the intake manifold gasket is leaking anything. It keeps coolant in it, so it's probably just this bottom part of the valve cover that's leaking, which is not great, but it's not terrible. It doesn't seem, well, it might be, I don't know. Can you see that shiny spot right here?